How do you deal with rejection? You know, we hear a lot in this world about failure. Failure is good. Failure helps you get to the next level. But nobody really teaches you how to deal with it. When you do get rejected, when you experience failure with a project, when you lose that job, whatever, how do you deal with it? I'm Phil Cooke, and today we want to talk about rejection, secrets for dealing with rejection. Whether your creative projects are getting rejected, whether you're getting rejected, whatever it is, the truth is, if we're going to go to the next level, and if we're going to do significant work in our lives, we're going to get pushback. We're going to experience rejection. And it's not really the rejection that matters, I've learned, it's how you deal with it. What's that line about? It's not about getting knocked down, it's about getting back up again. How we respond to rejection matters, and trust me, you may be an actor going to auditions, getting rejected for parts. You may be a creative person who's producing stuff that's constantly being rejected. You may have a film that's performing badly at the box office. Whatever it is, we need to learn how to deal with that. We need to learn how to deal with that. So today, I want to talk a little bit about what to do when you get rejected, when you or your work gets rejected. How do you respond? Because it's absolutely critically important. So here's some things that I think will help you handle it. Number one, don't overthink it. Don't overthink your rejection. Sometimes we kind of wallow in it. Sometimes we, just think about it over and over. We go home and lay in bed, and certainly it's hard. And the truth is, we need to understand that very often rejection has nothing to do with your work, has nothing to do with you. It's a matter of timing or chemistry or culture. Great example is actors. My wife Kathleen, my daughter Kelsey, and her husband Chris, they're all actors. And they've gone to millions of auditions over the years. And very often, the audition is not about talent. It doesn't come down to talent. It comes down to, are you the right fit? Are you the right height? You have the right hair color? Are you have the right complexion? Are you the right size? So many times, particularly with actors, it's not a matter of how good an actor they are. It's, are you right for the part? Does your body size, does your look, does your style fit the part they're looking for? So in those cases especially, I've discovered that don't take it so hard. Also very often, even in creative work, whether you're a designer or a writer or a filmmaker or a musician, the work that you do may not be a problem. It just may not fit the expectations of the person you're doing it for. So number one, don't overthink it. I've just discovered in my career that very often rejection has more to do with, other things than your performance. It's not your performance. It's not your creative work. It's not you. It's those other things that it didn't fit that caused it to be rejected. So number one, don't overthink it. So many people I know that just go into this deep depression every time they get rejected. And I struggled with it early in my career, but the truth is, very often it's not you. It's not even the creative work that you've done. It's just timing, chemistry, style, size, whatever. Something else doesn't quite fit. So number one, don't overthink it. I had an email exchange with a very creative filmmaker recently who's had, he's had some pitches rejected. And he just droned on for page after page after page of email about the struggles he's having and trying to figure out what it was. And he's just way overthinking it. He's going down deep into something that is not deep. Overthinking it will just drive you nuts. So number one, don't overthink it. Number two, don't take it personally. I really struggled with this in my 20s as a creative person, writer and a filmmaker and a producer. In my 20s, I really struggled with this. When a client would reject something, maybe a commercial script they didn't like, maybe a video they didn't like, whatever it was, I just really took it hard. And I took it personally. After a few years, I realized it's not me they're upset at. It's not me they're rejecting. It's the work. It's the work, which is an extension of me. However, it's not the same thing. So understand that you need to separate you from the work that you do. That's really important to understand. I mean, it'll keep you from jumping out a window. It'll keep you in the game. If you learn to make that separation happen, and here's the thing, when you learn to make that separation, you start realizing, wait a second, they might be right. Maybe there is a problem with that manuscript. Maybe there is a problem with that design. Maybe there is a problem with that video. And when you realize it's not about you, you start to realize, okay, it opens you up to the possibility of fixing it So then you can go on and have success. I remember poet Carl Sandburg said a great quote one time. He said, "I sent poems to 2 editors who rejected them right off. But I read those letters of rejection years later, and I agreed with both editors." Sometimes distance helps you understand why that work was criticized or rejected. So separate it from you. It's not about you. That's the opening line of Rick Warren's Purpose-Driven Life book. It's not about you. Learn to separate your work from you, because that will be incredibly important and help your career move on to the next level. Number 3, find objective advice. If someone rejects you, remember that sometimes they may be an idiot. They may be an idiot. And so I learned to go to someone else I trusted, someone else who had expertise, someone else who had authority in that area, and get their opinion. And they're not. Make sure that person is not just going to be nice to you. Make sure they're going to be objective. But if you go to an objective authority, sometimes it will really help you overcome it. Because the truth is, I know many people listening to me right now, you're submitting work to jerks. I get it. I know. People who are raving idiots. So sometimes they're not right. I get it. I totally get it. More than ever, you have to understand when that happens, it's not about you. It's about the project. And even then, it may not be about the project. It may be about them. So always have an objective third party that you can share that work with and say, look, I just need you to take a look at this because I think it's right on. I think it's really good. I think it's innovative. I think it's groundbreaking. But my employer, my client, whoever, thinks it's terrible. And I think he's off base. What do you think? And now here's the deal. That doesn't allow you to go back to that bad, that idiot and say you should accept it now because this guy liked it, but it helps you understand that you're not off base. It just helps you put the priorities in place that you're not as off base as this person made you think. I've said in other episodes that I was fired once by a guy who didn't like my ideas. And that's okay. He didn't need to, didn't have to like my ideas. But once I was fired, I realized other people were willing to pay a lot of money for those ideas. And so, sometimes it's personal perspective, perspective. It's what they think might work or not work. So it's not about, just understand how to separate your ideas from you. It's going to help you a lot, and get that objective third-party person to share your advice with. Number 4, at the moment of rejection, keep a cool head. Ask for constructive criticism. You submit a project to a producer, an agency, a client of any kind, and if they reject it, just take a breath and ask could you share more? Tell me a little bit about what you didn't like about it. And if you do it in a pleasant way, if you do it in a gracious way, they will probably share, and then you walk away with more information. You've walked away a better person. And it helps you. You're not just going back. Very often people reject things and they don't think about it. They just reject it because they don't like it for whatever reason, but they don't expound. They don't share why they're rejecting it. It's your job as a creative to go back to them and say, well, could you tell me more? Elaborate a little bit. What is it that you didn't like? Because then it may be a remarkably simple fix. It may be a remarkably simple fix, something that you could easily fix and go back. Turn those things into teaching moments, even when you're the student. Turn it into a teaching moment because I think it's important. James Lee Burke said, there's nothing like a rejection to make you do an inventory of yourself. So do that inventory at that moment, if you can, at the moment it's rejected, and talk about what they didn't like. Try to, what is it you didn't like? And you'll discover very often it's not about you. It's not the work is bad. There was just something in there that needs to be fixed, and you could do it very easily. And finally, the last thing I'd say, number 5, is don't let rejection derail your dream. This is so important. Don't let rejection derail your dream. I've talked to people who were designers, writers, filmmakers, and rejection leads them to think, maybe I'm in the wrong business. Maybe I have no talent at all. Come on. Rejection happens. It's going to happen a lot more. The better you are, I'll go so far to say the better you are, the more rejection you'll get because you're pushing boundaries. If you're really doing something significant out there, if you're an original thinker, you're going to get rejected. Learn to do it and move on. Learn to do it and move on. Don't let rejection derail your dream. Keep tweaking, keep changing, and most of all, keep moving forward. I think in that light, the best quote about rejection I've ever heard was oddly from actor Sylvester Stallone. He said, I take rejection as someone blowing a bugle in my ear to wake me up and get me going rather than retreat. That's worth again. Sylvester Stallone. I take rejection as someone blowing a bugle in my ear to wake me up and get going rather than retreat. Rejection. It can either destroy your career, it can make your career. I had an interesting letter. I shared these thoughts with Brian Bird. Brian is a very successful showrunner, a writer, and a producer here in Hollywood. He's done tons of movies. He was a producer on the series Touched by an Angel, and he went from there to produce just movie after movie after movie for television. And he's pitched hundreds of ideas to television networks, because he's produced hundreds of ideas. And let me tell you what he said. He sent me an email. I wanted to read it to you because I thought it was so important. Brian Bird, the writer, producer, said, "I've discovered over the years you have to go into every pitch meeting with the attitude that you're going to find a way to win something, even if you don't sell the pitch or get the gig. The other ways you win are, number one, you leave the meeting with a new contact. Your pitch was decent, even if it's not what they were looking for. You've acquitted yourself as a pro, and you make a good impression. So you've made a new contact. Number two, you leave the meeting with more information. If they're not buying your idea, then ask them what they are looking for, and voila, you've armed yourself with new data about the business and what is selling and what they're interested in. And number three, you leave the meeting with your head held high because you've just taken your pitch for a shakedown cruise, and it will get tighter next time. You're going to go back and practice. If you practice, in fact, he ended this, if you practice Phil's strategies at every meeting you take, pretty soon you'll realize there's no such thing as rejection. Only ways to win and improve your game." I really like his line about your head is held high because you've taken your pitch for a shakedown cruise, and it will be tighter next time. That's so true. No pitch is perfect. No project is perfect. There's always room to improve. And sometimes going through the battlefield of rejection is a winnowing process. It's a filtering process. It's a toughening up process. We know that when you work out, your muscles have to break down before they can grow again, before they can expand. So think of your pitches, your ideas as a shakedown cruise so you can learn what to tweak before someone actually buys it and goes to the next level. So rejection is tough. I mean, let's face it. I get it. Nobody wants to be rejected. But the fact is, the people who are rejected and let it wound them are people who are not going to have a very long career. And the people that take rejection and tweak it and work with it, take it on that shakedown cruise, like Brian said, and take their project to the next level are people that will win. I'd encourage you on this subject. I wrote a book years ago called Jolt. Get the jump on a world that's constantly changing. And this is a book that I wrote to help people position themselves for the changes that happens in life. Let me tell you something. Change is coming whether you like it or not. Change is coming whether you're ready for it or not. I'm telling you, change is coming. So particularly as a creative person, I would encourage you, get a copy of the book Jolt, because it will help position you when these kind of storms happen. When your work gets rejected, when you get rejected, when bad things happen, it gives you the things you need to think about in your life that will position you to be able to take these things seriously. So Jolt, get the jump in a world that's constantly changing. You can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookstores will order it for you, whatever you need, it'll come. And I just think it'll help you position, particularly if you're a younger creative. If you're someone coming up in the industry and you're struggling with getting your career going, if you're struggling with getting out there, Jolt could be a book that would give you the jolt, the creative jolt you need to get moving in the right direction. And remember, follow us on philcooke.com. My blog is wrestling with these creative issues all the time. It's the intersection of faith, media, and culture. And creativity is such a big thing. Creativity, never forget, creativity is the currency of this culture. And how we respond and deal with it and grow in that world will dictate how far our career goes. So today, rejection, remember, don't let it get you down. Don't let it frustrate you. And most of all, don't let it derail your career. Use it as momentum. Use it, as Sylvester Stallone said, that bugle call to wake you up and move you forward. Rejection, it's not so bad if it helps you get to the next level.